coach because life is life and not. There's been some people pass away this week. It's been kind of crazy. So anyway, tonight we're going to be still talking about boundaries. We talked about addiction. Certainly if you've dealt with an addict, you understand that there's a need for boundaries. Boundaries are not, hey there, thank you for those hearts. Boundaries are not building walls or burning bridges. That is not what boundaries are. But we're talking about maintaining healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries are loving boundaries. Loving boundaries are ones that are built before we get pissed off, rather than those ones that tend to burn and build walls. So they help us to honor ourselves and honor someone else. So we talked, on Monday night about boundaries, and Wednesday we talked about boundaries. If you didn't get to see Wednesday's video, it was an amazing video. So I hope you'll get to see it. So tonight we're going to talk further about boundaries. What happens when they don't respect your boundaries? I hardly ever encourage people to go, oh, thank you for all those hearts. Is that you, Kim? I love you. So, yes, it's my Kim. Thank you, darling. So we're going to dive deeper into the boundaries tonight, just about what happens if people don't respect your boundaries. I don't talk a lot about going no contact, but I do talk a lot about expectations and intuition, and these kind of things. And sometimes these expectations cause you or somebody else to have to go no contact. It's either expectations placed on us that are unreasonable expectations. I had a client last night, and he had an aha moment because I explained to him about unearned guilt and how unearned guilt is formed through these expectations that we didn't know about. This is how a lot of codependency is. When I was in my codependency, I had some expectations I had not verbalized. So what happens when we verbalize our boundaries and we learn to say them politely, because loving boundaries are polite? You're just as good as anybody else. See, we're afraid sometimes to set boundaries when we have low self-worth. Hello, Devraj. How are you? I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. We're talking about boundaries this evening. That is the topic. So when more people come in, we got a few minutes and I'll get started on the topic. But, I always say that we don't talk about religion. We may talk about God. It was pointed out the other day, you just talked about God. And I said, but we're not talking about religion, not, religions like that. So we don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about politics on here. We don't talk about my age. I'm glad you're doing good. We don't talk about my age or my dating status. And we're nice. John London, hello. Have you been falling asleep on me, John London? Because I think I've been missing you at the end, and I don't blame you. Tonight, I don't think this is going to be a couple of hours. Thank you. I don't think this one's going to last a couple of hours long. You may be able to stay up and do the breathing with us. I know it's late where you are. So we're still carrying on about boundaries. And I think it might have the review here too. So we talked about, it's okay, it's all right. I'm told my voice is really calming, and so I can see how that would happen. So we're going to talk tonight about what happens when somebody doesn't going to be a wild one. Oh, because I didn't have a pink shirt to wear for Dolly, but I got the sisters for sure, right? So yeah, the sisters are whatever. I'm not going to be able to wear stuff like this too much. I always think you should have been a Hollywood an actress. Ah, thank you, Devraj. I tried to act one time, but I don't act very well. I don't, but thank you. I could be like Vanna White, though. She comes from my hood, from Texas, I believe. So I could have been a Vanna White. You all had any of that ground up? Oh, God, y'all. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, darling. I love you. All right. Hello, Clint. How are you? Well, okay. We're not going to focus. Y'all here. Eyes up here. I know this. All right. Thank you. Thank you. These are hand-me-ups from my daughter, and I think that I'm going to be handing them back down to my daughter too. I know, Ramon. She's awesome. I get people tell me that they are really, I don't know if y'all see the comments. I believe it's also in the comments after. People are so grateful for the moderators. And Kim, you get them. She does get them, girl. Yes, she does. I know. I know. Well, thank you. I get told I look like a lot of people. There's one guy comes on here, Tony, I believe it is, says I look like Jamie Summers on The Bionic Woman. I've been told that I look like Stevie Nicks. I used to be called Heather when I used to sell cars. You know, the guys at the car lot would call me Heather because any blonde that has a big smile, I've got a Canadian down here that thinks I'm Farrah because any blonde with a big smile, that's usually... All right, whatever. All right, we're staying on topic. We're going to get started now. As I said before, we say keep our comments in here respectful. Thank you, Ramon. We keep the comments in here respectful, and Kim will zap you one if you don't. And so, hello, Mac Daddy. And so, yeah, thanks, Ramon. And so, if we keep your comments respectful. This is an amazing community, and everybody's very loving and supportive here. So we don't hate, we don't do anything. So that means we don't talk about religion, and we don't talk about politics. We don't talk about my age, and we don't talk about my dating stat. We stay on topic, okay? So we're talking about maintaining the boundaries tonight. I was just saying earlier, there's more people here. I'm doing great this Friday night. Thank you for the positive vibes. So, we've been talking about boundaries this week, the need, why we need to set boundaries, the fact that most of us weren't taught boundaries, and so we get to learn boundaries. We also talked about you're never too old and it's never too late to learn about boundaries, and that boundaries are an act actually of self-love, though many people fear setting boundaries, thinking that it means rejection, thinking that it does mean cutting people off. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about when it is time to cut people off. If they can't respect your boundaries, sometimes I always say that we need to have boundaries. It is getting funny. Please don't change the topic. Oh, thank you, Devraj. So anyway, we're going to respect the boundaries. Well, thank you. Respecting boundaries. And so I have my own boundaries. So it's important when we set boundaries, we can set boundaries, Snafu. Exactly. So the thing is when we set boundaries, we need to know what we want, what we need, what we desire. We have to, take an internal look at ourselves, because a lot of times people want to control people and have people act a certain way for their comfort, but they don't know how to set boundaries. So control isn't boundaries. Rules aren't boundaries. Boundaries are a nice conversation. Well, thank you, LOL. Boundaries are a nice conversation that we have, in the beginning of relationships, rather than when we get mad later. If you learn how to set boundaries in the beginning, there won't be you won't feel like you're being taken advantage of later. Okay. So I'm going to look at my notes because I won't be responding to comments that are not on topic. You're just a villain. Well, we talk about villains a little bit up in here, but we don't really talk about, I'm going to read these notes, and I look forward to your comments that are on the topic, okay? So what happens when they don't respect your boundary? So this is where, this is really powerful, is what do you do when they don't respect your boundaries? Because a lot of people say they're going to set a boundary after they get mad. So they're actually repulsing people. Sometimes they're building, building walls and burning bridges. That's not setting boundaries. Loving boundaries are like when I know what I want, need, and desire, I'm able to say, hey, this is what I need. I feel like this. We talked about clear and present self-respect, boundaries, and principles. Absolutely, John London. Thank you. Right on the mark. Exactly. So maintaining the boundaries is what we have to do, because a lot of people feel good. They set one boundary and they have expectations. It's really about letting go of those expectations and being able to communicate. So it's learning that communication. What do I want? What do I like? What do I need? What do I desire? So it's not a one-sided relationship, whether it's with your family. A lot of people say, they never call me. Well, if you want to talk to them, you call them. If you don't want to talk to them, don't answer the phone. That's it. You know? Those are boundaries sometimes we have with ourselves and have with others. Sometimes some conversations I get into, it's like, I know I'm going to be talking for 30 minutes, no longer than an hour. Thank you. All right. So when someone says, when you start having boundaries, people are liable to say, but that's not fair. Because when they've gotten used to, taking advantage of you. Because a lot of people, we talked about earlier, about when a lot of people want to feel needed. And when they want to feel needed, thank you, Kim, you are on it tonight. It's a Friday night. So when people want to feel needed, they oftentimes don't know how to say no, so they get taken advantage of. So in order to keep from being taken advantage of, we need to set those boundaries in the beginning. Make sure that we're honoring ourselves, having boundaries with ourselves to where we're able to say no when we are overextended. Because sometimes maybe you want to do something, but you're overextended. I know that I've been that way. So when you do start setting boundaries with someone who has been committed and it has benefited them for you not to have boundaries, this is what you're going to hear. But that's not fair. You've changed. You used to let me, and if you loved me, you would. These are manipulations. So, and sometimes they'll tell you you're being selfish. Suddenly the boundaries disappears because we're afraid, oh my gosh, do I look selfish? Oh my gosh, I do love them though. Oh my gosh. And so we get into what is called fawn, right, John London? This is when we're like, but no. So we undo the whole work that we've tried to do. That's what happens. That's what fawning is then, when someone says something negative to you, you take it on. Okay, let me see if I can make this bigger so y'all don't see the sisters. There. Okay. Is that better, Kim? Okay. Yes. Omar, you're right. Getting past the worry of walking away. Because when we learn, one of the things I learned in therapy was she would say, Stacy, what are you afraid of? And that's that walking away, right? A lot of people are afraid, like Omar said, of that walking away. Hi, Mr. Adif. And so, John London, yep, not making that mistake twice with fawning. I hear you. I've done it too. It's like, we mess up our whole thing. What I did was I had to pull the screen up bigger, so you know. So the fawning. So what happens, we're talking about that. And then you're going to get some pushback. You're going to get that negative self-dialogue. So when someone's saying, you've changed, or you used to let me, and like John London just said and brought up, Monday night, yeah, I made the screen bigger so the girls aren't showing, so the boys will calm down. So thank you. So suddenly the boundary disappears when you go into fawn. You undo everything that you've worked hard to learn. So let me say that when I'm working with people who have problems setting boundaries, who are being asked for money or being asked to work for free or being asked to do certain things, and it doesn't align with them. So I suggest to them, because they feel a little bit threatened by saying no. They say to me, now I'm afraid they're going to feel rejected. But you see, this is where the mirror part comes in, because really they're still afraid of, and they're like, because I know what, feeling rejected feels like. And so that's where the mirror part comes in, because then they're like, well, I'm going to get rejected if I tell somebody no, right? So this is that mirroring part. So when the boundary disappears, when we're improving ourselves or trying to do things better for ourselves, people who benefited from our compliance, from our low self-esteem, and our playing small, they're going to push back. You can respectfully tell them, I'm not participating in this. This is what I do when people are pushing back on me, is it's like, if they're being loud, if they're trying to be loud to get me to mind, it's like, I'm not participating in this. John London, people see others how they see themselves. Exactly. So if people are afraid of being rejected, they're going to be afraid of other people to feel rejected. Omar, it's natural to feel emotions if we break up, but the next time boundaries are mentioned, it's about setting your stall out from, yes, setting them from the beginning. And stop wonderfulizing, yeah, stop romanticizing your partners, and that's how we end up in illusion. Exactly. That's a good point, John London and Omar. Those are very good points. Hi, beautiful mama. It's good to see you. So those are important points, because see, that's what I'm saying. If we set these boundaries, these loving boundaries in the beginning, then we won't be like saying, we never get to do what I want to do. You never listen to me. Because what we do is, if we don't set boundaries, we may be giving our power away and letting other people feel more. If we treat them more important than we are, then they're going to think they're more important than we are. And this can happen with our kids, can happen with our, I know that I've done that. I have a friend, I think, some of y'all have heard me say that, my daughter, I was talking to one of my friends, and she's like, how come they treat us like this? Because there is an evolution. Like, my daughter she didn't come out with expectations. My daughter was telling people at 2 years old, I don't want to, right, Mom? That's the way my daughter was, and they have her on video and everything saying, I don't want to. So she had some boundaries. She had some strong boundaries at 2 years old, and she would tell you, don't talk, don't say those words. She was. And then when I was learning boundaries, she was learning boundaries too. You have to love yourself before you love another. Also, never disrespected by a partner. Exactly. When we love ourselves, we won't get disrespected, will we, Omar? We will not. Because when we love ourselves, we get that look. And see, I talked about that look on Wednesday. We'll get this look because our soul knows when we're being insulted. Our soul knows when someone's trying to control us. When we're younger, sometimes we want that control. I know I did. I thought that I wanted control when I was younger. Then I got controlled, and it's like, no, hell, I don't want to be controlled. So it would only last for 3 to 6 months, like was mentioned earlier, that romanticizing, and I didn't know what was going on. So we have to, when we start relationships off where we're not romanticizing, that we're actually listening to the other person, we can tell, Cable Dog, you're welcome to stay here, but we don't talk about politics in here. No, we don't. But thank you for being here. And if you're, hopefully the topic is boundaries, and hopefully that'll help you. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm not responding to comments that aren't on topic. Jim, I told my ex I like to skip washing my hair because I think it's healthy, and she grabbed me by the hair and, well, my goodness, Jim. That's pretty rough, isn't it? No, I don't need a joke. No, Raven's not here yet. Omar, I don't believe in playing games, but silence with someone disrespectful, having time to speak your own time. Yeah, I sometimes have to tell people, if I get silent, because I have to get silent sometimes to process my thoughts. Because I have to figure out in my process of thoughts, now, is this an old wound? So sometimes I'm silent because I'm thinking, is this an old wound? Did they say what I thought they said? Or why is this bothering me? That's part of the process. So when we figure out, why is this bothering me? Instead of wondering, why'd they say that? I used to think that. Now, I'm not saying that. There are some people, I do tell people to say, why did they say that? Because when somebody is obviously being mean to me, I've told y'all about those times when someone's, saying throwed off things, and I'll be like, why'd you say that like that? Rather than getting in an argument with them. Because there's some people who just want to argue and fight with people because they're trying to get their power that way. Know this. Just because, a lot of people with these expectations think because you're nice that everyone else is going to be nice. It's also important for us not to have that expectation that everyone's not going to be nice. I tell my friends, my best friend and I were talking this morning, as we do, and I'm like, and another friend, there's three of us in our little crew. And so, I'm like, sometimes I meet people and I just decide they're going to be my friend. And sometimes I'm just more cautious, and I have boundaries at first because some people can come on really strong in the first. And those people are the ones that I make sure that I have boundaries with in the beginning, And I'm not saying there's anything bad with it. I'm just saying that I'm not romanticizing, as was mentioned earlier, and I've been love bombed before. And so I'm not trying to do all of that, right? And so these are things that we have to just go into relationships, whether it's friendships or your partnerships, go in slowly. Give yourself some time to get to know people because you're worth it. You see, if you don't set boundaries in the beginning, you're not going to feel worth it later, right, John London and Omar? Yes, John London, she did. I took that harder than I thought. Her birthday was the day before Mama's. And Mom used to say every year, Dolly Parton's a day older than me. And now I had to call, Kim told me, check on your mama, because I told Kim, because Kim told me Dolly Parton passed. And Kim told me, check on your mama. I called and checked on Mama, and Mom's like, she's not gonna be older than me anymore, So it's sad. It's really sad. And she was such an amazing person. I was just thinking this today. I need to work on thinking that people should behave the way I do. I know that's an expectation. And I used to have those expectations too. If I'm nice, if I'm helpful. And that's, we also have to be very careful with that because we can, inadvertently be having reciprocal, John London, what's my word? Because you said it the other day. We can be having these relationships where we have the expectations. If I do this for you, you're going to do this for me. Transactional relationships is what they are. Yes. Caution means boundary. Yes. Hello, Marcus Wall in Sweden. Thank you so much. Hey, Pammy. Yes, she was. We have to be like Dolly. Thank you, Super Slave. I think our airport is changing its name to honor her. Yeah, Kim's in Tennessee, y'all, if you didn't know. Definitely a legacy left behind, 100%. Absolutely, John London. Yes. Hello, Brittany Nicole. Yes, the fam's here. The fam is here. Hello, George. Good evening. Devraj. Transactional means friends with benefits. Well, that's one too. Yeah. But a lot of people aren't signing up with friends. Here's the thing is we have to have a boundary with ourselves. Sometimes there are people who just want, I talked about this, sometimes people just want friends with benefits and to know the difference. And this is what Omar was talking about too. Sometimes people are just attracted to people at first and romanticize them. And there is the mirroring that's good and there's mirroring that's bad because sometimes people will just mirror you in the beginning of a relationship so that they can have control over you. And this is when those relationships move too fast. This is what you really have to watch out for. So, yes. Thank you, Brittany Nicole. I appreciate that. Omar, a partner will pull away in the beginning. It's how you behave when they do. If you stay calm and don't react, just respond. Exactly. That's what I talk about is just responding. Because we've talked about your central nervous system. I've worked with people who are anxious attachment and avoidant attachment. And so the anxious attachment is usually the one that's trying to move the relationship on really quick. And the avoid, and sometimes they're attracted to each other to learn their worth. A lot of our relationships, if we're willing to look at learning our worth rather than I'm a victim and they're a villain, because the villain, you once really liked the villain, So it's like not making ourselves a victim and them a villain, but what did I learn from this? That's the important thing to know in these relationships. That's where our maturity is. I thought about driving over to her house to leave flowers. There was a lot of flowers at the gate. Oh, we are having a good day, Brittany. I know, see yourself in 5 years with that person. It's really about getting to know them. Because a lot of times, I know even for myself in my youth, is that when I would be talking to people, they would be telling me things about themselves and I'd be like, just going right past those red flags. They would be telling me who they were, and I would go right past those red flags. And what was the problem was my ego and me trying to prove something. And I knew it, but I wouldn't look at it. And so sometimes we do know this and we just don't even look at it. And, we can look at it now or we can look at it later. But it's going to be more painful when we look at it later. So, yeah, watch out for the mirrors. Yeah. I've been with my husband, my soulmate, for 10 years and stronger. That's excellent, Brittany Nicole. Sometimes JR is here and he's been married 30 years too. I think that that's great. Did you have to learn boundaries in that relationship? I mean, did y'all just naturally have them or did you learn them? Because sometimes we have to learn, and having the boundaries with ourselves. Hello, Michael. Brittany Nicole. Yes. All right, so I'm going to look at my notes. Thank you so much. I love your participation in the comments, and I'm going to go to the notes. Pam, I didn't know about Dolly's book, Foundation, until yesterday. She was an amazing person. Your baby mama cheated on you and took the dog. Oh. Sometimes people will cheat on us. And thank you, John London. You always notice my hair. See, John London, he notices some things. Hello, Dominique. No, I've got it in a clip up here. It's in a clip. So y'all can see my earrings. How do you like those earrings, y'all? There's feathers. They got some color, mysterious, see? Matches the shirt. Y'all know I'm matching. All right, back to the topic. Back to the topic. So let me find my spot because I done lost my spot. So what happens inside of us when someone pushes back, right? 2046, my goodness, that's a long ways. That's going to be 20 more years, Mom. You're going to be, 20 more. I don't even know if I'm going to be here. The shoes do match often too, John London, but y'all could feel sorry for me today. I walk sometimes 4 miles in the morning. I walked 2.5 this morning. I have done, the 4 miles today. But or the steps or whatever, but I was walking and my sandals broke. So I had to walk down that long causeway. I don't know if y'all have watched the video where I was walking down the long causeway, but I was walking down that long causeway barefoot, just like a Texas girl, gritty Texas girl. I was walking to the meeting barefoot. All right, so when they push back, so what happens inside of us when somebody pushes back, when we're like, I'm setting a boundary. On Wednesday, I told you all of an example of a boundary that I had set, that I told someone I can't see you because they wanted to have children and they wanted to not be monogamous, and I wanted monogamy. So I liked them. We had a lot in common, they were a really cool person, but I had to be like, I can't see you. I want monogamy. I want, I am not having any more children. I'm still recovering from the children I had. And so anyway, we have a good relationship. He did get to have his son. He does have a marriage, and he does still message me that he could that I could come help build pallets to store food for the homeless people. He's a humanitarian. He's really nice. But we didn't, it wasn't a victim villain thing, but I felt so empowered of telling him no, and not trying to prove and take this person hostage because we got along well. I listen to Chris Canwell, and he talks about not being too nice as it weakens your position. Never give your heart and love away, as it takes women longer to fall in love. Yeah, it's thank you for mentioning that. Yes, we need to take time with ourselves. We do, because our heart, it does take longer, but once it's there, it's there. That sounds painful on those roads. Aw, thank you, John London. I appreciate that. Yeah, because, I was like, I need a ride home from here, y'all. I done walked up in here because I got the cleavage going on today. I said, I'm coming up in here like Dolly Parton, like a hillbilly, running around barefoot with the boobs. It's like, and I don't have, thank you, John London. That is sweet. Okay, Rayer. Hello. No, there's a difference. Intimacy is different than just polygamy, for me. Now, different people may have different things. I'm not saying that it's not, but for me, intimacy, we've talked about this on here before. Intimacy is into me. See, this means I'm not just attracted to you and curious about you sexually. That means intimacy is that I want to get to know you. I want to know who you are before I, do anything. Because they got some stuff out there nowadays, y'all. They got some stuff, and I ain't playing. I ain't, no. So, and suddenly the boundary disappears. Thank you so much, XOVXXVOX. Thank you, Michael. I got. Oh wow. Well, very good. Congratulations, Michael. JR, there you are. There you are. I was just telling somebody we have somebody in here that's been married 30 years, and we're talking about boundaries. So, did y'all have boundaries in the beginning, JR, or did you develop them later? And I'm trying to watch comments and read here too. So, all right. So, when somebody pushes back on our boundaries, so that usually what happens is we start to feel guilty. I talked to someone, thank you. I talked to someone last night and they were just like, it was an epiphany. I'm like, because this person is a very good person. They feel a sense of, yeah, JR's been, with a person 30 years. So they feel a sense of obligation. And when we feel obligated, and this is sometimes when we start off in these relationships too fast, we feel obligated. So there's a difference. I was talking to this person. There's a difference between obligation and a sense of duty. They're a very dutiful person, but there's obligation. So what we're doing is through boundaries, figuring out, is it duty or obligation? And this person's going to have to develop boundaries with themselves. They're going to have to learn how to say no because they're a very good person. Yeah, see, somebody else has been in here. Somebody else in here has been with their partner for 10 years. So I did ask them too. Did you have did y'all have boundaries to be together for 10 years? So thank you. Yeah. All right. So here we grow. We're going to keep talking. I'm caught up on messages, and Kim is killing it tonight on putting them out. So. All right. So when you may feel guilt when you start setting boundaries because it's learning about hello in Paris. I'm learning how to say je appelle me Stacy or whatever. Anyway, that's me. All right. So hello, Sarah. We can explore guilt, fear, anger, abandonment fears, because that's a lot of times why people are afraid to set boundaries, the abandonment fears and people pleasing. This is when we have to have boundaries with ourselves first sometimes, telling ourselves, I'm learning French, Cedric. I'm learning. I'm in the very first phases. So I'm pretty proud of myself because I know English, obviously, but I've learned a little bit of Spanish. I know enough Spanish to get by. I do have an necklace on. And I'm learning French now. You're never too old and it's never too late, y'all. That's what I'm saying. Being alone is scary. It's not ever been scary for me, but it is for some people, especially if they've had a house full of people. My dad used to say, you're going to speak English? Okay. My dad used to say when, after he and mom divorced and all the kids are gone, he's like, Stacy, how do you do it? Because I lived alone. He's like, how do you do it? How do you have a quiet house? And I'm like, I like it. I like it. So, these second guessing ourselves is another thing that may happen when we start setting boundaries. I thank you very much. Is it Carlicious? I like just regular coffee. I put honey and oat milk in it. JR, there's someone out there that loves you. And I know, right, JR? I truly believe that. I truly do. You feel too much, Michael? Do you feel like you need to heal some things, though? I used to, See, there's a difference between codependency and empathy. And so I used to feel very empathetic, and sometimes people think it's even intuitive, but it could be expectations, because if we're expecting to be disappointed, my direct tone about is really, I'm a mindset coach. I specialize in addiction recovery, codependency, and grief. Thanks, Cedric. Cedric, right? Mark's story. Thank you. I'm good, Omar. Why nice guys fail and bad guys win. Can well video above. Yeah. And I used to be the nice girl, and I used to wonder, like, and girls, women have that problem too, is because that we'll think, how come the witches always get the guys and I'm nice, so I get it. So I lost my spot again. So sometimes we second guess ourselves when we start setting boundaries and over explaining. I used to do that before I learned to set the boundaries. Thank you. I am wearing the pendant. Thank you, Cedric. So, abandonment fears, people pleasing, second guessing ourselves, over explaining, rescuing, giving in just to restore peace. These are things that happen when we set boundaries, and we're new to setting boundaries. And so if you show these kind of things when you set a boundary, that your fear, then people are going to, push even harder. So when teaching people how to set boundaries, like I said, sometimes I've worked with people who had family members who always ask them for money, and they're like, I'm afraid to not give them the money. And I'm like, well, just say no. No, thank you. No, thanks for offering me to give you some money. No. I used to do that with people on the street. Sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. My daughter would say, Mom, why do you tell them no, thank you? And I said, well, they offered me to give them some money. So, just saying no, thank you is enough. But a lot of people do struggle with that, when we've come from that fear of not being accepted if we say no. So I suggest to the clients, is to say, hello, Panda in Africa. It's good to see you. And Thomas, I see your message. My contact information is in the description. So the bad guy is authentic because what they do doesn't hide behind a facade. And the bad guy is assertiveness and saying no. Yeah. Yeah. That's the way my first love was. He used to say, I don't give a, and he didn't have a problem. And and I would be trying to manipulate him sometimes. And he would say, Stacy, don't get an attitude, and call me out on my stuff, because I could get an attitude. I'm good today. Thank you, Kagan. Guy Bernard. Okay. Anyway, back to our notes. This is why I have notes here. So thank you all for joining tonight. I realize you could be other places, but you're here. So thank you. Cedric. I'm good. Thank you. Carlicious. That's why you're under. Okay. All right. So back to the topic. All right. Someone being uncomfortable with my boundary does not mean that I'm automatically mean and have done something wrong. I forgot what I was going to explain. So I was explaining, I would have said, Stacy, LOL, get an attitude, but I'm going for a walk. We can talk when you have calmed down. See, that's what I told my daughter when she would come out yelling at me. And all right. So what I would tell people with new to setting boundaries, I don't know, let me think about it. But you have to make eye contact when you set boundaries, because if you cower, they're going to push, and they're going to push hard, and you're going to not know what to say. So when you set a boundary, you say, I don't know, let me think about it. And then, see, that doesn't seem mean now, does it? So when I told her, I said, now you do it. She's like, I don't know, let me think about it. And how does that look? I'm just showing y'all because you can see a difference. And if you want people to believe you, because this is the thing, is a lot of people who don't set boundaries in the beginning, they're trying to set boundaries 3-6 months later, and they're like, nobody listens to me. That's where I was anyway. I was crazy. I'd be crazy. I know I'm probably the only one in here, but I really did feel like no one was listening to me because I would say things and they'd, you know, but see, we have to say what we mean what we say, and we don't have to be mean when we say it. So, hey, Robbie, it's good to see you. And so, and then the distinction, someone being uncomfortable with my boundary does not automatically mean I've done something wrong. See, this is when I was talking earlier about earned guilt and unearned guilt. Because a lot of times there's adults who are afraid of getting in trouble with other adults. So if you say something to an adult and then they look at you and they're like, so this is why the eye contact is so important when when you're setting boundaries, when we're talking to people. And I know that I used to not have very good self-esteem. Thank you, Hassan. I used to not have very good self-esteem, and I would be looking down all the time, and it'd be like, people would have to tell me, Stacy, put your head up, and I had to learn how to keep my head up, and I had to learn how to look and be okay with looking in the eyes of somebody, and I had to be okay with learning that they may not like what I say, and I'm still going to be okay, So we're talking about our trust issues tonight. Can I tolerate someone else's disappointment without abandoning myself? So that client, they finally got it. We tried 3 times, because you got to look in the eyes. You can't say, I don't know, I'll think about it, or no, or whatever, because you look like you're avoiding it. Love smartest. Thank you. Thank you. So trust issues and boundary dynamics. On Monday, we began looking at why boundaries can feel so uncomfortable for us, Omar. I would have said to change the guilt to disappointment. Why be so hard on yourself? Well, because with unearned guilt is like a lot of, people who are adults who have it were children at one time. And they got in trouble and didn't realize they were going to get in trouble. Has anybody here ever been a child and you were just playing and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose, or you get in trouble for something you didn't expect to get in trouble for? I know I've seen it. I've seen it happen before when a parent's had a bad day, or a parent is not consistent, and sometimes you may get away with murder, and sometimes you may get in trouble, and sometimes it's going to be something small you get to trouble. Thank you so much, Cedric. Guilt is not going to serve you well, though. No, it's not. But a lot of people don't know that it's not real. They just feel it. It's an internal feeling, but a lot of people's feelings weren't even thought about, Okay. So when your feelings weren't thought about as children, a lot of children were taught to be seen and not heard. And so when we're taught to be seen and not heard, maybe when we said, hey, I've said before, I love these videos where adults are acting like children. You want to see how I can do this? You want to see like how I can do that? That was your life growing up. It was my life growing up too. You never knew when all hell was going to break loose. Grinch is hiding in his house, y'all. He's not coming out anymore. He knows about these. He knows about these lives now. When I've talked to somebody new, the Grinch comes out and is like, who are you talking to? But now he knows. He's comfortable with you all, so I don't know when the Grinch will come out. So, yeah, it is. And we think when we get in these grown bodies, Michael, that the guilt or the pain is going to go away, but we have to feel it to heal it. And a lot of us fear feeling it to heal it. And I talked about that. If you can, Michael, catch my Wednesday video, because I talked about how, our central nervous system goes into flat, fat, freeze. And as John London mentioned, fawn, and how we go into fawn. And a lot of times when people give us pushback, when we try to set a boundary, that's what we do, is then we feel guilty. And then we back up, and our whole boundary, the whole start of the process is totally messed up. So tonight we're looking at the dynamics of how this can happen, So on Monday we began. So I'm going to kind of give y'all a short review on what we've talked about if you didn't get to watch those videos, but I encourage you to watch those videos. Right, but a lot of people have to get rid of that guilt with people. Hey, geez, Jaded Wasted, it's good to see you. Is a lot of people don't realize. I talked to a man last night, and he, you could see that he just got a glow when I explained unearned guilt with him, and how unearned guilt turns into us feeling like we're obligated, because some of us, we're made to feel guilty, He's singing. He heard his name. He's just really talking up a storm, but he's not coming out. Your parents died when you were 20. Aw, I'm sorry about that, Michael. There's grief, and we aren't taught how to grieve either as children sometimes. All right. So on Monday, we looked at why boundaries can feel so uncomfortable for us. We explored how our past experiences can influence our nervous system and how we learn to associate boundaries with rejection, conflict, confrontation, or even losing connection with someone. So then on Wednesday, we moved from understanding why boundaries can be so difficult into looking at what happens when we begin to communicate what is actually true for us. You know, all the years that I spent in therapy and I didn't set boundaries, she would say, we do carry trauma. And that he definitely has PTSD. He's been in the military, and so he's got some, real PTSD. Yes, but a lot of people are trying to find someone who loves them for who they are. But if we don't have boundaries, I know when I didn't have boundaries, I was looking for somebody to love me for who I was, but I was too busy performing to show them that I could make them happy, that I wasn't even happy myself after a while, So it's about when I was in therapy, like I was saying, she would ask me, Stacy, because I kept going back to the same relationship. And she would say, Stacy, what are you scared of? Because as was mentioned earlier, about being alone. And I didn't know I was afraid of being alone because I considered myself pretty independent, you know. But it was like, she's like, what are you afraid of? She asked me that a lot of times. I know sometimes parents, they don't mean to, but they can send us mixed messages. And that's like what I went through just in dating, as a single parent, because I didn't want to send my kids that message because when your parents, hey, Angela, it's good to see you. Sometimes when our parents, they didn't mean anything, but when they split up and get back together and split up and get back together, when they split up, it feels like things are unsafe. And then when they get back together, things are safe. And this can even be, then they didn't have the information that we have today. What we know today is that's a toxic relationship. And what we also know is that it's releasing in toxic relationships. What it does is it's releasing cortisol, it's releasing serotonin and dopamine and these kind of things, because the loss and gain, the proving and winning and the loss and then losing and this feelings going back and forth. Some people mistake it for passion, but it's just chaos. And there's actual things happening, chemicals being released in your body that cause some people feel addicted to a person. This is why. That's why. So Wednesday, we moved from understanding why boundaries can be difficult into looking at what happens when we begin to communicate what is actually true for us. I had to heal those old things and not expect that somebody was going to, like a knight was going to come in and swoop me up on a horse and take me away. I had wanted those Walt Disney things and stuff. Now I love me some Walt Disney. I'm not trying to diss Disney. But this illusion, like Omar was saying earlier about romanticizing, that somebody's going to give us something that we have inside of us. And that's what I learned in therapy, was I have love inside of me. I have trust inside of me, and I have security inside of me. But these were things that I was looking for outside of myself when I was younger. And when I ended up in therapy for 16 years. So thanks, Jeremy. Kim, I'm having to work hard today, Stacy. Thanks, beautiful. I appreciate it. You're having to stay on it. Angela, thank you. All right, Omar. The conditions have to be right to heal, and that patience from partner and supporting person are always helpful in healing. They are, but we don't always. I know that much of my healing, I did not even have a partner, because it was usually like I read this book, The Mastery of Love, 5 times by Don Miguel Ruiz during this breakup with this person. And I told y'all the other day that when I would go to therapy, because first off, she would say, what are you afraid of? We worked on that many years. And then we worked on what do you want? Because we have to know what we want to attract the kind of relationship that we want, or to be in the type of relationship that we want, because we're going to attract a lot of relationships. I told y'all that sometimes people ask me, when am I going to quit attracting narcissists? I'm like, you're not, because they love the light. And you're a light-filled person, and that's what's going to happen. So it's about having the boundaries with ourselves to not fall prey to that, to be able to listen. Listen, because people tell you who they are. So they can be very charming, but you'll just listen and take your time. So for me, I had to learn. I did a lot of healing on my own, and sometimes that pain was the greatest motivator. That 5 times I read that book, that boyfriend had made me mad that my therapist had asked me, coach had asked me, Stacy, what do you want? And I told y'all the other day on Wednesday, I told her, I want to be secure. And she's like, no, you don't. And that's because I kept making the same choices, expecting different results. And that wasn't security. The security was in me to set these boundaries, not walls, not bridges, not burnt bridges, but boundaries. Loving myself enough in the beginning to know what do I want, rather than acting like in the end of what I don't want. I didn't want this. How is this happening? Da 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 da. If we pay attention in the beginning, it's going to be, we're not going to go that far. Blue Lightning, why do women need to be rescued? Why not just a man who is companion? I think women are going more towards companions. I think that we all had this certain program because men like to rescue too. A lot of men have. They're not always, not all men are doing that nowadays, and not all women are trying to be rescued nowadays. We're trying to have more mutuality. A lot of people, that was a learned behavior, Blue Lightning. It's a great point, but that client I had last night, he was saying that he's reading men are from Mars, women are from Venus, because we just have different communication styles. So a man typically wants to know, just they want to the point. What is it? What's the point? Because they naturally are geared to want to fix stuff. And sometimes it's not about fixing stuff. So I always tell my ladies, I'm like, y'all talk to me, because when you're processing these things, because men want more direct, communication than for us to do our process. There's some men that may enjoy the process, but a lot of them are like, would you say what you're trying to say? So, good evening, Ugard. Omar, yes, it could be singular, but I've seen it. And yeah, relationship couples have to want to work on it. And that was something that I had to learn in my dialogue with that person, is I'm willing to work on it if you are, and you have to be able to say that and not just hope that things change. There has to be a plan. Angela, Disney stories are a scam. It's hard to find a Prince Charming in real life. Yeah, but John London he just was going to carry me because I had ended up barefoot today. So there are some good guys out there. I do believe that there are. And I told my guys today, and I have a, predominantly man's meeting in the morning time. And I said, I'm so proud of men, because men are, they are seeking, they are becoming curious about things. They're breaking those cycles and interrupting those patterns of being emotionally unavailable. And because they were taught to be emotionally unavailable, because they're like taught, don't be a sissy, don't cry, or don't do this, or don't do that. Men don't do this. And when girls were taught, you do this, you grow up, you go to school, you grow up, you get married, and there's your Prince Charming or whatever. So we have to learn ourselves. Hey, passing through slowly, how are you doing this evening, Dwayne? I'm finally able to coordinate a time. Oh, good. So we're talking about boundaries tonight, Dwayne. Michael, insanity. It's doing the same thing, expecting different results. And I've done plenty of that insanity before. Artful. I've never seen a happy couple besides my parents. Oh, that's sad. At least you got to see your parents. Because when I was in in coaching, and she asked me, what do you want, Stacy? And I was like, I want to be loved. Just like somebody mentioned earlier, I want to be loved for who I am. I want to be loved. And she's like, what does that look like? And I'm like, because I grew up in chaos, and I know that they loved each other, but I didn't want love to look like that. I'd already done that. I had already done that. So when I'm in coaching and she's asking me what, and then she's like, do you want to be cherished? And I'm like, Yeah, I want to be cherished. And she's like, what does that look like? And I'm like, mm, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying my parents didn't cherish me, but I'm just saying that I didn't know what a healthy, I wouldn't have known a healthy relationship if it would have come and slapped me in, slapped me upside my head. I wouldn't have known. And a healthy relationship wouldn't do that, by the way. Mutuality and symbiotic relationship, exactly, Devraj. Mutuality, and it requires communication, and this is why boundaries are important. Boundaries are a form of communication. It's saying this is what I want, rather than hinting and hoping. I know I used to hint and hope. Anybody in here hinted and hoped that things would just get better? Omar, interesting about narcissism is healthy narcissism. Okay, well, we're not going to go there tonight, Omar. Yeah. Most of the time it's on the other end. Yeah. And so, yeah. Thank you, though. Hello in Ireland, Anthony Purcell. JR. You do have a healthy relationship, Kim. You do. I admire your relationship. It's a good relationship. Kim is love. She has a good man, y'all. She does. I appreciate your ear. Got to feed the animals. All right, Michael, you have a good evening, okay? Thank you for being here. If you haven't subscribed and if you like this content and want to see more, Michael, all of you, if you're new, please hit that subscribe button and smash that like button too, okay? Thank you. Blue Latin and trading. I just got dumped by a woman I cared for deeply because I'm not giving her all the things in life she feels she's missing out on, yet she had years before me to address that. Yeah, that happens sometimes. And that's why we need to figure out what we want before we get in a relationship. That's what I had to learn because I used to get in relationships and think that they were going to be like me, right? I'm going to be giving them everything and they're going to give me everything, but that's not how it is. They say what they want, and then like 6 months down the way or longer, then we're like, but we never do what I want. And it's like, well, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know what I want to do, but we never do it. And it's like, that's not really fair now, is it? So it's important for us to know what we want. I have my clients make a list. What do you want in a partner? What do you like? Take yourself out to eat. If you want flowers, buy yourself flowers. If you want this, do this for yourself. Don't wait for somebody to do that for you, or you're going to maybe feel like you're longing and left wanting. Take care of what you want, because you're and then if it comes along later, that's just icing on the cake, so to speak. Omar. Men showing emotions in their real side is good, but also using logic and wisdom. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Omar. JR, there are some funny people in here this evening. Artful. I feel like I shouldn't be honest about my dating history. Right. I don't think that we need to bring up our dating history when we meet people. I really don't. I think if somebody asked me about my dating history, I'm like wondering why. Why would you ask me about my dating history? Now, I'm pretty transparent that I know for me, I think that people need to take a break. I used to bounce, I might have 3 months break from relationships, and I'd be back in a relationship in 3 months. But I wasn't clear on what I wanted. So this is when we don't know what we want and we're trying to fit into somebody else's life. Well, we bend ourselves into a pretzel until we're unhappy and twisted, and we're going to twist off. You know what I mean? So it's important to know what we want in the beginning so we're not setting ourselves up for pain later. So honoring ourselves honors somebody else, so Wednesday, we moved from understanding why boundaries can be difficult into looking at what happens when we begin to communicate what is actually true for us. See, a lot of us are afraid to communicate what's true for us in fear of that rejection. So we have to get comfortable, and that requires us to go a little deeper. So because we can go confidently, before we can confidently communicate a healthy boundary with someone else, we have to begin knowing ourselves. Because it's not fair to start saying, I really wish you wouldn't do that, and and be so hyper focused on somebody else that you don't know what you want. So why are you going to pick on somebody else about what they're doing? Yeah, we don't have to share our dating history, Artful. Well, if they ask, you have to ask them, why are you asking? That's what I'm going to do if they ask me, why are you asking? Because I'm part of that conversation too, right? So if I want a partnership, I have to show up as a partner in the beginning rather than just a tag along, or else I'm going to always feel like a tag along. That's my experience anyway. So if somebody asks me about my dating history, I'll be like, why are you asking? So don't have nothing that's past. I want to be present with somebody when I go on a date, right? I want to be in the present. I don't want them bringing their past with them, and I'm not trying to bring my past with me. You ran off and followed the Grateful Dead. That's cool. Blue Lightning. Art, that is awesome. You experienced that. Yes. Art's, yeah. Adam, hard questions. Omar, love is freedom and wanting to get back to your man. That's true love. Yes. JR. JR knows he's been in a relationship for 30 years. That's why he's laughing at us, because he's got some answers. JR, we're waiting on the answers here. Devash. Devsha Saha. My wife had a 5-year affair with a rich dude, and they got dumped by the other. Okay, whatever. Jason, it's good to see you, but you did make it, and we haven't gotten too far. Chester, Lucas, hello in France, Lucas. Ramon, oh gosh, are you blushing, Ramon? Nice to meet you, Chester. Yes, they should look at us a human being and a soul. Thank you. You'll send a message and run away because you're shy? Why? Yeah, Michael, I was a relationship junkie. Now I'm gone. Yeah, I hear you. I used to bounce, but I don't want to bounce anymore. If we never dated, yeah. Omar, self-care and compassion first, but I really feel really listening with our loved one, even if what they say we might not agree with. Example, let's agree to disagree, but I still love you. Exactly, because it's going to be that way. You're not going to probably agree on everything, but there can still be love there. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to prove yourself right, and they don't have to prove their self right. It's just about just loving each other's company and sharing your adventures together. I believe that they don't have to be, right up on each other all the time, and that there's two of us here, and we are mutual. It's not. I'm not trying to take up anybody's reality and make their reality my reality or my reality their reality. It's that we come together in union. Rejection is really hard. Yes, it is. Some people like to talk about their past relationships so they can receive some. Exactly, Free Dead Tree. Exactly. I used to do that when I was young and I hadn't healed from relationships. And I wanted somebody to not do those things to me. So I would be like, and then it's like you can't control people like that. But that was ignorance on my part, and I had to learn better. I had to heal from those old relationships. So once you're healed from those old relationships, no one wants to be talking about those. They don't have any merit anymore. Kim, that's something I wish I did with my relationship. Don't bring the past, right? They got that French flag going. I love it. I love it. I'm learning a little bit of French. I'm in the early parts. I'm learning how to say my name. Chester, I'm from a strict Islamic country where seeing a woman without a hijab is very rare, if non-existent. I know. I have a friend that's Persian, and they had, she had them and stuff, so I get it. Yeah. I look French. Well, good, because I'm about to go to France one of these days here. Hello, my glove. It's good to see you, Mr. Boudoir. Angela, it's important to share our past with a partner because that's how they know. I disagree with that. I don't think that they have to know everything about our past. They don't need to know how I felt about my past. They don't need. I don't think so. But I think for some, maybe it is. I don't know how deep you're talking about into the past, but I think that I don't want to hear about somebody's past myself. I don't know why somebody would tell me that, you know? I really don't. Because when I go meet somebody, it's like, what do you like to do? I like to do this, this, and this. Okay, well, why do you like to do that? You know, I want to know about that person. I really don't give a damn about their past so much, you know, because I'm going to Google them anyway. You trust, I'm going to Google them and make sure they're legit, you know, but other than that, I don't need to do that. That's what's so cool nowadays. I will Google somebody. But yeah, I understand some people may want to share, but I rejections are hard. It is a part of the human. It is, we're all going to be rejected. It's not personal. It's not personal. We all have our preferences and we're entitled to our preferences. And I don't want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with me. My partner talks about them as she looks for the moon to fall out of the sky at times. About them, is that her past partners or about what? McGlove, how's everyone? We're good, McGlove. How are you? It's trauma and you calm her down. Well, that's good. See, that would work like Angela's talking about. I've healed my trauma, so I don't need somebody to try to heal me. I'm just going to show up. My audience are from all over the world, and I just love it, Devraj. I just love it, and I want to thank you all for being here. This is just so exciting, and you know that we can be from all over the place and come here together and be loving and supportive and kind, and you know share our experiences because there's not a wrong. I'm not saying anybody's wrong, you know. It's just what I find is healthy. And so I'm sharing that, but I certainly love getting the input, seeing your input. So that's good. Thank you, because that's what I do. I set my intention. So somebody like Michael says that's a good point because a lot of times, I know for me, until I had a coach, it'd be like I had a certain way of thinking, and then when she said something else, I'd be like, wow, I never thought of it that way. So that's the hope that I try to get here. I have not seen your last post. Y'all subscribe to McGlove if you like. He's got some adventures. He shares on his coins. And, you know, we do believe in supporting people and lifting people up here. You know, if Pam's still here, I don't know. But she's got a channel. McGlove's got a channel. And, you know, also my channel. So please hit the like and subscribe button to me. But also follow McGlove if you will. And McGlove, I'll have to go check out your post. I have not seen it yet. Angela, even if you Google them, Stacy, it's important to know what people have learned from their past relationships. Well, when I ask them what they want, because I'm going to ask them, what type of relationship, if it gets that far. Because first off, I'm going to go to coffee or something with them. And if they talk about their self the whole time, and everything, then I'm probably not going to go on a second date, right? So I'm not going to go on the first date and tell everybody everything about me. I'm going to go and we're going to talk about what our experiences are and these kind of things that we like to do, things like this, and see if first off that first layer. So it's layers, you know, first. It's not, I'm not going to be like, I used to be like that, but I'm not. But I see what you're saying. If they wanted to know, like I say, I would have to ask, why do you want to know? Because there's me too. I have not been in a relationship for a long time, so there's not really much to tell there, you know. And I don't believe that I need to badmouth or say anything about my older relationships. I can tell what I've learned, but do they need to know what I learned? Because I kind of like, I'm pretty open. Thank you, Mr. Boder. I'm so happy to hear that. That makes me happy. Omar, she heals herself, but I just listen and hug her and tell her it's okay. That's so sweet, Omar. That's really sweet. You see that, y'all? Omar. There's Omar. There's some good people out there. Kindness is free. Share it with everyone. Yes. That's what we were, when grieving Dolly Parton, that's what, she was just always so kind. Also, see the best in her is she has so many qualities rather than the worst, and that's how to be a good partner. Absolutely. Thank you, Omar. Devroy Dar, hello. Thank you for joining from Asia, Adam. Should we ever settle? I've done my share of settling. I'm not settling anymore because this is where people are like, I wasted my time. And well, you may think it's wasted time if you settle, or you might see it as a growing experience. That I've settled and I saw it as a growing experience. And the people told me who they were before I settled. So they're not a bad guy. I wasn't tricked. A lot of us feel like we're tricked in relationships, but if we listen, they're telling us. I've told y'all before, if somebody tells me, Stacy, you're too good for me, this means they're insecure and I am too good for them, because they're probably, all the people who've done that have cheated on me. So it's like, then now when they say I'm too good for them, I'm going to believe them. If they say, Stacy, you're out of my league, then I'm going to be like, okay, thank you for being honest with me, because I am a little old fashioned and some people aren't looking for that. And so, or if they say, Stacy, you're intimidating. Well, if they're afraid of me having a voice, well, they're not mine either, right? But that doesn't mean they're a bad person. Layer of mystery to find out core. Yes, exactly. Artful. It all scares me to death. A therapist told me to get an AI girlfriend. They don't have feelings. But maybe, I don't know. I don't know. If your therapist told you, I'm not going to say that that's wrong. Mister. Hello, Mister. Free Dead Tree. I wish I could get my wife's sister to watch you. She's so codependent. She cannot sleep without having my dog sleeping with her. It's bad recently going through a divorce. I wish she would watch too. Thank you. What happened? I wish she would watch too. Share it with her. Maybe she'll end up watching. My lady friend always says I'm kind and gentle, and I tell her that is my act of rebellion, and we laugh at my response. That's sweet, Jason. You got a good lady friend. See, there's a lot of people happy in couples on here. Nothing wrong with being old-fashioned. Thank you, McGlove. I've not been old-fashioned before, but I'm old-fashioned now because I believe there's some merit to that shit. Omar, how about Stacy? You seem nice, and I would like to find out who you really are, and let's see if we can make something out of this experience. Yes, Omar, that's good. That's good. That's how it should sound. I had somebody say something like that to me one time, and they're like, so if we find that we connect, do you think you would be open to? I'm like, no. I already know his motivation in the beginning. Robbie, nothing wrong with a little bit of old school now and then. Thanks, Robbie. I appreciate that. I know, right? So let me find our spot. Yeah, I had one of these guys here that told me I was intimidating. He also was the same one, though, that told me, Stacy, because he was talking to me and one of my best friends, and he's like, Stacy, you girls deserve to be courted. And it's like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to be courted. That's what we're going to do. So far, not much. But I did have one date in the past year. Thank you, Almond Flower Garden. All right. So then on Wednesday, we moved from understanding why. So that required us to go deeper when we looked at the why we were afraid boundaries were difficult. Because before we can confidently communicate a healthier boundary with someone else, we have to begin knowing ourselves. So we have to begin recognizing our triggers. Like I said, sometimes when I set a boundary or I pause, if somebody does something or says something that triggers me, then I have to pause because I have to think, did they really do something, or is this just a trigger? So sometimes I have to tell people, I'm okay. I'm just processing something. And sometimes I process it and I'm like, oh, Stacy, and it's like, I check it out because it's good to take a minute to think if something triggers us, because we heal in different levels and layers. It's not a one and done. So I need to stay in my business, instead of saying, why did they say that? I used to do that. That used to be my first instinct. Why did they say that? Why did they? And it really, sometimes I learned that what they said wasn't really intended to, it wasn't like a bad thing. It was the way that I heard it, not what they said. So sometimes, does boundary mean platonic love? No, no. Boundaries just need to start in the beginning and having those boundaries with ourselves, knowing our worth. Boundaries are preservatives for it preserves our worth for us to remember who we are and our worth and our value. So it's very important before we enter into any kind of relationship, whether, when we're being around our family, if they don't have boundaries, we may have to have the boundaries ourselves. If we're, sometimes our children won't have boundaries, and we have to have boundaries with our children. Sometimes our partners don't have boundaries. We have to have boundaries. And it's good to do them in the beginning, because people are going to think you're crazy when you start setting boundaries, when it has behooved them and been beneficial to them for you not to have any boundaries. So you have to go gentle. You can't just make a big announcement. I have boundaries now, so y'all watch out. No, you have to start off gentle, because you lost your boundaries pretty gently and subtly, maybe. But if it's an abusive relationship, I always say you need to go no contact. But if you're not sure, like I say, I have to process things with people. Are they really insulting me, or is it? Thank you, Pam. I didn't even see it. So I always say you to say after a date, would you like to see me again, in non-pressure way? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way, Omar. Angela, we can forgive people and their mistakes if they aren't narcissists. Yes. Yes, you have to definitely sometimes go no contact with someone who has that personality. Hello, Arjuna. Devraj. Preservation of our value. Can we value defined by another person or societal norms? See, that's the thing. This is important to have boundaries, because a lot of people have done this thing by societal norms. Sometimes people's low self-worth, low self-esteem, and that guilt and unearned guilt, because working with people, some people come from a lot of different, this is why we don't talk about religion here, is because some people come from religious backgrounds that made them feel very, very guilty, and they received unearned guilt. And so breaking that process of always feeling guilty, and so that we don't want to go on some of these societal norms. What is societal norms? Because what might be good in here might not be good here, and some of things have been taken to extremes in both directions, right? And so somewhere there's harmony in between, and it has to be my harmony. I'm not to conform to somebody else's harmony. So we work together in a negotiation. See, a lot of times what we talked about on Wednesday was about when you compromise yourself rather than negotiate. Negotiation calls for communication. When I compromised myself, I didn't know how to communicate what I wanted, what I needed, and what I desired. I was afraid to, because I was afraid of being abandoned if I communicated what I wanted, what I needed, and what I desired. And I had to learn how to express that. I did say hello, Arjun. Pam. Robbie, I hope you're able to find a friendship there, and maybe it will grow to more. Yeah. Typing mistake. I think I missed some comments. Sometimes that happens. Robbie, the only dates I get these days are in Christmas pudding. The dates in Christmas pudding sound pretty good. So yeah. So I don't conform to what other people say. It's we all are individuals, and knowing our gifts and knowing because what might be okay for me might not be okay for somebody else. So I have to know what's okay for me, and that's the person that I need to be attracted, that we can have a mutual attraction with. is that we can both feel comfortable with each other. You know, I do believe that there are people who feel like home. I do believe there is that. I'm not cynical here. I do believe there's people that feel like home, that you just get, you know, that you just meet them and then it's like, oh, this is, you know, my best friends are like that. We don't agree. We don't have the same belief systems at all. You got a Texan, you got a Californian and an LA girl, and then you've got a New Yorker. That's our group. One's Persian, one's, you know, does her thing and I do my thing, and it's Southern, you know, and we all come from different backgrounds, you know. And it's what makes it beautiful, I believe. But you know, we do have boundaries. I set boundaries with my friends too. Sometimes they want to give me their input, and I'll be like, "Not today, not today," you know. So Omar, going to sleep. All right, Omar, thank you for being here tonight. I hope you subscribe to the channel, and that I'll see you again. I'm going to be back on here Sunday at 9 a.m. Central Standard. Arjuna, Pam. All right, so. Hello, Jalebi. Blue Lightning, did you say you only had one date in the last year? I sure did. Angela, codependents are afraid of saying no because they're afraid of losing people. Exactly. And I was codependent and I was afraid of losing people. And so I kept being miserable. I would get in relationships 3-6 months down the road and I would start feeling like it was a chore, you know, because I was doing everything. McGlob, I was done compromising for a buddy. He didn't realize what was happening until he got himself thrown in jail, then got out. Whew. I'm glad you quit. You finished compromising with him. Because some people, yeah, as long as it benefits them, they're like, yeah. Is it better to be alone or with someone you feel at home with, but they don't meet all your expectations? Well, first off, we have to look at our expectations. And did you verbalize? You know, I think when we meet people, like when I'm talking, when I'm talking, meeting new people, like we're talking about, is verbalizing what we want, need, and desire, not necessarily expectations. Because I used to have these expectations can be kind of funny. It's tricky because I had expectations in relationships, but I didn't verbalize them. And so if we have expectations and we're afraid to verbalize them, afraid somebody's going to leave us, well, then those are unreasonable expectations. So there's reasonable expectations. If you verbalized what you want in a relationship, and then that person is not, you know, coming near it, well, it's just you can't control them. It's just like, oh, well, we're just not a good fit. You know, that's all. But you have to verbalize it, because if you don't verbalize it, like I used to not verbalize it, and I had expectations. I just hoped with my expectations. I would hope that it would get better. I would hope this. I had these things in my mind. And then when I worked on my own codependence, and I'd have these expectations, and maybe I wanted this guy to ask me out for the weekend, and I thought that he would because I didn't have my kids that weekend. And I would think maybe he's going to ask me out. Maybe he asked me even, are you doing anything this weekend? And I probably said no. This has been a long time ago, y'all. I worked on my codependency 23 years ago. So then I would call my sponsor up in Coda, and I'd be like, he did this. He was such a villain. He was an asshole, you know, all of this. And then she'd say, oh, you had an expectation. And I'd be thinking like, yeah, what? But, you know, I didn't ask him, are we going to do anything this weekend so I could free my weekend up, or so I could make plans or something? I didn't ask him that. Are we going to do anything? So an expectation, when I have expectation that somebody's just going to do something and just going to know something, that's an unreasonable expectation. I had to learn to use my big girl words, and this is what we're talking about tonight, is when you learn, to use our big girl or our big boy words, we need to just stand firm in it rather than backing down out of that fear of losing somebody who may not even be right for us, that we're going to regret being with or feel like we wasted. Boy, Kim, you are a busy girl. All right. Well, artful, yes, there is. You have to decide what you want instead of it being a person that you want. You have to know what your values are. You have to know what you want in a relationship and not expect somebody's going to give it to you just because you want it. And so we'll know when we're aligned with somebody if we're able to sit down and have that date, have that coffee, and say, well, what are you, what are you looking for? In relationship, if you are you even interested in a relationship, are you just looking for a coffee date, or you just, because that's okay if they just want a coffee date. you know what are you looking for? And then we can say, well, this is what I'm, coffee date's cool, we can do coffee date. But if they're wanting to manipulate in something that's not for me, if they're wanting to manipulate into a casual relationship, or if they're wanting to get married in three weeks, then that's probably not going to be for me. So that's the thing, is you can't make people be who you want them to be. Angela, what are you going to do if you Google your date and you can't find anything about his past? I'm going to certainly ask some questions, and I've got very good intuition because I'm able to stay present. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'll be thinking about some questions that I'm going to ask them when we go out and see how they answer. And, I'm one of these single women that I sit around and watch all of the pathological shows and all of this. So I know what to look for. But yeah, and it's just like, I'm not really, asking questions is important. That's what I value about you, Angela, is you always ask amazing questions. But what will asking him about his dating history help me with? Because are they even going to be truthful about their dating history? So I really want to know the present moment now, what they're going to tell me. Because if you look at all these people who get conned, they don't tell the truth. So there's no point, and I have to just feel, that's why I don't like internet dating, because you don't know if they're telling you the truth on the internet. And a lot of these people that I've seen, beautiful women, and there's been men too. I looked at that catfish show too. And there's been beautiful women and men. It doesn't matter what you look like, how much or how little money you have, that there are people out there that are tricksters. But they're not going to tell you the truth. They're not going to sit down and say, I'm a trickster. When you say how many, I don't really want to know about because I just want to get to know them, who they are right now. And you can sense things. Artful. I meant to get rid of the desire to even date. Oh. Well, if you get to know people, you're going to know if you want to date them or not, and not be afraid of them. Artful. You have to just get to know people. I'm friendly to people, and I listen to people, and I live in this little bitty town. We got a lot of day drinkers down here, and I'm not interested in the day drinkers. So I have some friends that are men, and they're good men, but they're friends. Devraj, have you ever heard the news, like parents kill their children because they did the marriages with a person outside of their caste? Honor killing is so common in India. I know, that's so sad. I've seen it a couple of times, and it is sad because, yeah, Joshwan, I do like astrology. Blue Lightning Trading. It turns me off when a woman immediately starts asking screening questions rather than organic flirting and fun conversation. I don't even know if I know how to flirt. So I don't know. I'm not going to interrogate people. I'm not that kind of way. But I'm going to ask them about them. And I'm going to hope that they ask me about me. And I hope we can have a conversation, because conversation goes like this. I've gone out with men before where all they talked about was themselves the whole time, about how much money they had, about this, about that, bragging and stuff. That's not really attractive to me. I like to have a conversation that they say, Stacy, what do you like? And I'm like, oh, I like this. I like to do this. I love to walk. I love to do this, and I like this place. And then I get to say, what do you like to do? And then, see, this is a conversation. You go back and forth in the conversation. But if I go on a date with somebody and they're like, well, I've got this. And, when I did get on a dating app one time, y'all, This man, I'd said that I wanted some healthy, and anyway, then I go on this dating. I took myself right off when I was in Texas one time because this man shows up. He was supposed to be healthy, and he tells me about how his ex-wife is stealing his Xanax. And he was drank, and he's like crossing his arms like this and things like this. And I'm like, we ain't going on another date. I'm off this app. That's what. You are very welcome, Angela. Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate your questions. They're amazing. Blue Lightning Trading. When a woman immediately asks screening questions, my perception is she's searching for something missing in her life, and I don't want that responsibility to make her happy. That's very interesting. Do you have a conversation with a woman, though? Do you ask her what she likes, and then she answers, and then she asks you what you like, and then you answer? Because it is about getting to know each other. It's not about being screened. It's about conversation, and that's what the way a conversation goes. It's like, I want to get to know you, and you can get to know me. And maybe we don't want to get to know each other. Like I said, when I go on a date and somebody's just talking about themselves the whole time and not asking me any questions, that's pretty boring too. They're not getting a second date, I can tell you that. They don't have to give me the third degree or nothing, but we're going to have a conversation. Blue Lightning, I don't blame you, but yeah, guys start off saying cute things. It's been all fake, but just know it can take a little time. All right, Almond Flower Garden. Is it a red flag if a man likes to go out partying at night every weekend? Do you want a man who goes out and parties at night every weekend? Because if you don't, then it is. But if you don't mind, then it's not. Some people when I was young, I didn't care if a man went out partying at night every weekend. I wouldn't, I don't really want to date anybody who drinks myself at this point in time in my life. If they drink just one drink every so often, and some people do, that wouldn't be bad. But it just depends on what you want. So when I make my list of what do I want, it's not somebody who's going to be partying every weekend. So it's what do you want, though? Because I don't know how old you are, and I don't know what your social status is. If you want to go out with your girlfriends every weekend, and if he goes out with his friends, and that's cool, right? So it just depends. But just honor yourself is all I can say. This is what we need to do when we're, getting to know people, whether it's our friends or our work, whatever, is, do I want to hang out with somebody who this is what they do? Is this what I want to do? And it doesn't mean that you're judging them just because that's not your preference. It just means that you're not going to compromise yourself, what you want to do. And it's important for us to know what we want to do. Sometimes are we going to do things, maybe we're like, oh, and then we go do it and it's like, yes, it wasn't so bad. Gemini won't work. Gemini's got the twin. 5 years after my wife passed, I began talking with someone, and she ended up showing up at my house without being invited. Oh, yeah, that would do it for me too, Stuart. That's not cool. That's not cool for people just to show up. Yeah, and in Mexico, they will just try to show up at your house, and so I don't let people know where I even live down here. I've never done an online date once. I believe that the old way it is the best way, Jason Stillwell. It is. I tried it, so I wouldn't be like, no. And I guess for some people, maybe it does work, but for me, I'm like, No, when I say I want somebody healthy and I go out with somebody telling me about their ex-wife stealing their Xanax, it's like, I don't really care about that. Well, what do you like to do on dates, Blue Lightning? Are you one that talks the whole date, or what do you do on the date? How do you get to know somebody? I'm curious. Angela, I don't trust men who flirt and give you compliments as soon as they meet you. Those are narcissists. They're not all that. I don't believe that they're all that. They can be, because there is that love bombing. So it's about, once we can be in our body, heal that central nervous system so that we're not reacting to that, because some people, I do believe that Why wouldn't I get a sincere compliment, is there over the top? Yeah. Yeah, there's over the top. But I do believe that there are people who give sincere compliments. I know when I give a compliment, and I guess, I don't know how many compliments you give, Angela, but I give sincere compliments. So I guess I'm able to receive sincere compliments because I know when I put my makeup on and I try to look good and someone says, "Oh, Stacey, you look pretty." And it's like, "Okay, yeah. Thank you." Because that was the plan. Yeah. Yeah. Shania Twain. I didn't get it, Ramon. Shania Twain, any man of mine. Blue Lightning. I just want to have a conversation like I would have with someone I met that I wasn't trying to date. Well, see, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I was saying is a conversation. Does that sound like you asked them a question? I mean, like, what are you going to converse about? That now, let me ask that. What do you converse about? You don't ask what are your likes or dislikes. What do you have family? You like your family? Do you have pets? Do you ask those things? Lyle. Hello, Lyle. Good evening, Stuart. A conversation is great, but I would not like being grilled. Right. I don't grill anybody. I don't have time for that. That don't impress me much. Yes, Ramon. That don't impress me much. You're right. And I was sharing that I was dating a guy, that guy that that we mutually, that I broke up with, I told him I couldn't date him anymore. He looked like Brad Pitt, it's like, oh, he's cute. He's got nice dimples and a smile, but he wants to have kids. He don't want to be monogamous. No. I'm not having kids, and I like, it's a difference. Do you want a man or do you want a boy? Exactly, Dominic. Exactly. It's like, no, I don't want a boy. I dated the boys. Blue Lightning says, if I met someone at a party or business event and didn't want to date them, that's the same conversation. I wanted on a date, no motive, no outcome dependent, just enjoying getting to know them. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, I see that too. Artful. It's surmountable in my situation at this age. I shouldn't feel this way. Well, healing is definitely a thing, and we have to feel it to heal it. It's not just going to go away, and no one will fix us. Don't drink or party, Stuart says. I have friends and family that I get together with, and they know better than to try and set me up. Yeah, nobody sets me up either. Debbie, goodbye. Love this session. It started as a funny conversation. I will be concluding on a worthy note. See you later. Okay, thank you, Devraj. Have a good evening. Blue Lightning Trading. When you meet a girl in high school, you don't screen them. You just enjoy organically getting to know them. People who screen are operating from a broken past. Okay. I didn't say I screened people. I said I asked questions. I don't ask questions. I just don't know if I want to know people for who they are. I whisper in her ear. Okay. Right. Free dead tree. I think people go on dates with a little too much expectations. Yeah. I don't know. I've been on one date in a year. I don't know. And he was a very nice guy, but I didn't feel like he was going to be a long-term guy. He brought the flowers, like Angela was saying. He brought the flowers. We split several, like 3 entrees at the dinner, but it just didn't click, And I didn't grill him, y'all. He was very nice, but he lives in another country. Sure ask questions, but not questions that are outcome dependent. I didn't say I was asking outcome dependent, but we do have to know if we're compatible with people, and you're right. It may take a few dates, just like hanging out with friends. Define man. Okay, Stuart, I will give compliments to someone on a feature that makes them stand out or personality trait that's nice, but I don't throw out empty words. That's a good plan, Stuart. Thank you. Artful, I'm struggling to breathe now. Aw, Steve, I think people need to be and need each other. I don't want to be needed in any relationships. I don't want anyone to need me, and I don't want to need anybody else. I want to be wanted in a relationship. That's what's important. So, I mean, that's healthy, I think, is you want to come together, not that I need, because needing gets to be heavy sometimes. I drink a little bit here and there, don't party anymore. That's good, my glove. Angela, men who give you compliments from a place of lust without even knowing you are narcissists, sociopaths, and cheaters. I don't receive those compliments about my physical appearance. I don't know. Yeah, I can understand that though. I can. Can't contain love. Blue Lightning. Sorry, I do not mean to direct my thoughts at you. I mean in general terms. Okay, it's all right. Thank you. I appreciate your comments. I really do, Ramon. Did you ship him in a box? No, no. A friend, one of our mutual friends, the one who told me I deserved to be courted. So he probably told him to come at me with this. So he came at me with roses. He brought me 3 roses. He was from Canada, and we're on a date down here in Mexico. He brought me some roses, and it was very sweet. He took me to dinner. We had 3 different entrees and shared it. And then he took me to dessert, and we had coffee and cake. And he didn't try to be forward or anything. He was a gentleman. You know, he was a gentleman. But we only had that date, and you know, like I said, I will examine. So in my investigations, I didn't see that, I felt like that maybe he wasn't on the up, you know. My glove. Have a date to see the Nutcracker early December. Oh, that is so cool, my glove. That is so cool. I appreciate that. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So that's good. A man and a woman. I love it, Butterfly and Love. Blue Lightning. At some point, sure, a serious conversation will need to take place, but why not enjoy? That's exactly right. I do believe that, Blue Lightning, is just have fun, because you're right. A lot of people with anxious attachment goes into the date trying to figure out how things are going to fit, how they're going to, and stuff. But it's right. Just let it organically unfold. I do believe that. I mean, need like desperately desire, like the song Unchained Melody. Oh, that one. That's a beautiful song. That's a beautiful song. Thank you for clarifying that. Almond Flower Garden. Believe it or not, a narcissistic female dentist friend destroyed my front teeth out of envy. Lisa Below, do y'all know who she is? Sometimes I watch her videos, and I just watched a really good video where she talked about the female narcissist friends. You know, it's I forget how you spell her last name, but she has little shows here on YouTube, and yeah, she talked about those female narcissist friends, how they will sabotage you. True love finds itself. Absolutely. Unchained Melody. Yes. Artful. Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate your channel. Take care. You take care too, Artful. I'm glad that you were here, but get you some breaths, okay? We're about to do, well, it's going to be a while before we get to the breathing. I've got to get back to my notes, but yes. Madame. Thank you, Akashapur. Blue Lightning. I have had some awesome first dates with people I'd never been in a long-term relationship with. I just want to enjoy every moment. That's right. When we go on a date, it is to have fun. Ramon. Cool. Only the best for Lady Stacy. That's right, Ramon. Thank you. Thank you. Ash Kapoor. What's up, my lady? We are doing this live, and I'm going to get back in my notes in a minute. I think my goal on a date is to make sure my date has fun, although some women don't cooperate. Well, that's a bummer. Because, yeah, I think that's the whole goal, is to have fun, to have fun. Because you're right, you got to let things unfold organically, but just to have fun. I like that. Okay, so I'll get back to my notes while we're here. So before we can confidently communicate a healthy boundary with someone else, we have to begin knowing ourselves. What do I want? What do I need? What do I desire? So we have to begin recognizing our triggers so that we're not just looking for those triggers, whether it's, so that we're not thinking everybody's out to get us. There's some people who really think everybody's out to get them because it's those unhealed triggers. So we have to notice what happens when we second guess ourselves. What happens when we second guess ourselves? Steve says, as we become matured and have contemplated our own mortality, our checklist for our partner changes. Absolutely. I've got a checklist, and you are so right, because we don't have time for BS as we get older. So it's like, I'm not going to be spending time doing things that I did when I was younger. So I agree with that. That's true. So we have to notice what happens when we second guess ourselves. If we second guess ourselves, if we're not honoring ourselves, that's when we're second guessing ourselves. McGlove, I'm working on a Toastmasters International speech. Got to make sure it has enough information to cover the time required for speech time. How much time do you have to do it, McGlove? Angela, I don't flirt or have dates with people who aren't good candidates. I'm friendly with everyone, but I believe in soulmates. Yeah, I don't flirt very well, I don't think. I may flirt, but I don't think I do that very well. I bet it will be colorful. Are you going to share it on here? You do have to pick your battles. There's not anyone going to be perfect out there. We all have our flaws. But it's like, do we have this energy? That's what I'm saying, and what somebody else mentioned about, do we have this energy? Does it match? Strength Battery. I wasn't a fan, so to speak, but I grew up. I thought she was an amazing lady, and I grew up on her. It's not like I was a fan, but I really had a lot of respect for her. I mean, I grew up, with watching her on Porter Wagner's show, and then my parents took us to Opryland, USA, and I believe that my mom, I don't know if mom's still awake and up here on this, but I believe she met Dolly Parton there at Opryland, USA, and then, so, yeah. Blue Lightning Trading. You don't have to have time for BS. You've had one date in the last year. You're missing out on some life. That doesn't sound like someone who doesn't have time. I'm very choicey. I like my house. And if somebody's going to get me to come out of my house, that one date had to be an awesome person, because to get me to come out of my house. But I'm not, I've gone to tacos with a friend, once, and I've had that one date, but that's not my priority. See, it's what's your priority. My priority is moving to France. So, Blue Lightning Trading. One time I was on a date and I told the woman, I'm playing, and you don't, I'm playing you, don't you? And she said, I don't care, keep it going. I'm having fun. Yep. Stuart. Most people are not narcissists. I think the word is overused. Most are good people who are just living the best life they can. We all have faults of some kind. Some are tolerable and some are run. I know, right? Some people have been so hurt by narcissists, and there are a lot of good people. You're right. There's a lot of good people. I truly believe that. I think it's important to heal so that we don't project, or that we don't run on the fear that everybody is. And that's, I healed. I don't think that everybody is. There's certainly the traits, and I know that even in my addiction, I had narcissistic traits. I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it, and da-da-da-da. And so, but when we become aware of our behavior, what we're doing, when, has our priorities changed towards potential love interest? Actually, we're talking about boundaries, which can be with our family, it can be with our friends, and it can be with, potential love interest. We need to start them with potential love interest in the beginning, not hoping and romanticizing that they're going to be somebody that they're not. Listen to them. I used to romanticize and hope that they would be somebody that they're not. We need to listen to them. This is why I say we have to talk, not put them under the microscope, but we have to talk. Tammy Bell, will I meet the man I've been manifesting? Do you think you will? I can't answer that, but if you think you will, but listen to them so that you're not, because sometimes I used to hope that I used to manifest, a few men in my day, but they weren't the right man because I wasn't the right woman, you see. So I had to learn, what did I want? What did I need? Not just default, because I was going on default is, oh, he's cute, he says this, he says that, but I wasn't paying attention to a lot of things that I needed to be paying attention to. I was not hearing what I needed to hear because they were telling me, and then I was only hearing what I wanted to hear. And so it's about being able, if I'm a whole person, then I know what I have to offer. I know who I am, and I know what I want, what I need, what I desire. And if somebody does come at me and they're telling me all about their past dating and love life, I'm going to think they haven't healed from it. That's all for me, you know. So I would know that when I go out or when I'm doing something and somebody's telling me about this, and like I said, even in friendship, when somebody comes at me and they're telling me about their taxes or what they do for everybody else and things like this, unless they want my coaching, I'm probably not going to want to I'm going to have boundaries on the time that I spend there, because I'm not just there for them to tell me the same shit different day. You know what I mean? And there are people who will do that, tell you the same story different day because they're just trying to prove that they're a victim. And if people want to overcome being a victim, then we can talk. But if they're just wanting to tell me that they're a victim every day, then I'm going to be, like, if I have other things to do, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing to do that. Angela, I'm not interested in having fun with narcissists and bad dates. I'm very selective. Yep. I have to go on a date, though, before I'm going to know if they are or not, if they have those traits. Jason, I'm the same way. I'm so busy with intense college studies that the only person I will make time for is my lady. I know. It's like, what do we prioritize? And somebody who says, oh, she's into building her business. She's into moving here. So probably now, maybe when the snowbirds come down to Mexico, if somebody's from Greece, Spain, France, or somewhere in Europe, if they come down here, then there would be a potential date because I'm not really going to stay down here. And my focus is that. I could date people down here, but like I said, I live in a tourist town where there's a lot of day drinkers, so I'm not a bunch of people running around looking and acting like toddlers. I just, no. Blue Lightning. Angela, selective is good. Going a year with one date is not good. Oh, you getting judgy with me? You don't know what the choices are out here. We have even the guys that I know say, Stacy, you ain't got a very good selection. We don't have much choices out here. And I'm not a recluse. I love my Friday night date with y'all. So I'm not going to buy into that Mr. Blue or Blue Lightning or Miss Blue Lightning. I'm not buying into that because I think it's okay to not want to date. I don't need to date. Mom, did you meet her in Opryland, though? I remember we went to Opryland. Wasn't that where Daddy's trunk got busted into? Somewhere along there. My glob speech is looking to be in 10 to 12 minute range. Well, that's good. Tammy Bell. Thank you, Tammy Bell. You are welcome. It is therapeutic, public speaking. I like public speaking, Angela. You need to ask superficial questions to choose the right person, and after that you can give fun dates with your soulmate. Yeah. Toastmasters is cool. Everyone should be in Toastmasters. Speaking skills are important. I am not a therapist, Abyss Walker. I'm a coach. I'm a mindset coach, life coach. I specialize in addiction recovery, codependency, and grief. It's okay if we see the world differently. That's what makes the world a beautiful place. I have learned that there is no one I can love like my late wife, Stuart. I can enjoy their company and trade friendly banter, but to let myself go is not in the cards. How long were you married, Stuart? And that's beautiful. I mean, that's very sweet. stands a beautiful princess was strolling along. Okay. Talking frog. No, thank you, Blue Lightning Trading. I will. I think that my dates are over in Europe, though. That's where I think my dates are. There you go. Angela wants to have fun with her soulmate. A man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. So do women. So do women. McGlove. A social life is overrated. I've learned to live with that one. Steve Stansel. That was an all-time favorite joke. Sorry. It's okay. And I used to go out quite a bit with my best friend, but she's in Spain now. And yeah. So I'll get back to our notes right quick. We have to notice what happens when we second guess ourselves. We have to recognize the ways, because when we second guess ourselves and think that we're wrong, then, are we giving somebody else the power over us, over what our body's trying to tell us? Because our body will tell us these things. That's why I like meeting people in person. So we have to recognize the ways we may. Thank you for the compliment, too. That was a compliment, Blue Lightning Trading. So, we need to recognize the ways we automatically move away from our own feelings and towards something that gives us a temporary comfort, right? So we may not even realize that we're doing it. We may simply know that we're uncomfortable and find ourselves eating, drinking, shopping, distracting ourselves, trying harder, giving more, or waiting for those little breadcrumbs that make us feel recognized and loved. This is like when we're not saying what we want, need, and desire, we'll just wait for somebody to give us what we want. And then, they may not give us anything for a while. Then when they give us something, we're like, oh, look, they brought me a flower out of the front yard. And I'm not saying that's not sweet and good, because it is. But not if you're having to wait like 6 months. If you're in Texas, I will take you out and you will have fun. I'd enjoy conversing with you. I'm going to be in Texas in December, but I'm going to be down near Houston, Galveston. If Mom's still on here, she knows. I'm going to be in Texas then, like in December, but near Houston and Galveston. Stuart, I was married 31 years, taking care of her with cancer, and then to watch my heart die with her, it was draining. She's been gone 7 years now. I hear this sometimes with widows and widowers, is that when you have the best marriage ever, it's hard to leave that behind. I had a friend that she had the worst marriage before she had her best marriage, and that's what she used to say. She was widowed, and she said her first husband was mean as all get out, because sometimes when we're young, we don't choose correctly, She said her first husband was mean, but her second husband was so amazing, but he died also, and so she said, I've had the worst husband, I've had the best husband. I think I'm going to stop right here. That's what she said. So we may simply know that we're uncomfortable and find ourselves eating, drinking, shopping, distracting ourselves, living harder, giving more, or waiting for those little breadcrumbs to make us feel recognized and loved. You're in Dallas? I will be flying into DFW. My I'm from Fort Worth, so I'm a neighbor, so I'm from Fort Worth, but I'm going on a trip with my family. So I'm going to fly into DFW and then go down to Galveston with the family. So this is where self-trust becomes so important. Because when we begin to recognize those patterns, we have an opportunity to pause and ask. So when we are feeling a feeling, y'all, when, if you're on that day or if you're at that job and you're like, did they just say that to me? Or if you're, here or there, whatever, your friends, and that you feel like something's say, what am I feeling? Because a lot of times we settle in relationships because of the fear of abandonment. But I don't know about y'all, but I got abandoned anyway. It didn't matter how hard if I tried to control it, DFW is perfect. When I come into town, it's like a fast. You probably have to meet me down at Dickens on the Strand in Galveston, because that's where I'm headed. Because when I fly in, it's like a whirlwind, because I'm only there for 5 days, and then I'm back down here in Mexico, in tourist land. Blue Lightning Trading wants to have a date with you, Stacy. Yeah. Free dead tree. Somehow, but he just likes talking to people. Somehow have the fear of just simply being alone. Ah, why? See, it's about digging our whys. When we ask ourselves why, our whys will make us why. Will make us wise. I mean, those WHY apostrophe S's will make us wise. WISE. That's how I had to learn. I had to ask myself, why are you mad about this? Because I would get mad about things because I was afraid of feeling abandoned. Stuart, I'm in Southwest Louisiana and have family in Houston area and Austin area. I still love to travel, but I'm the type that takes the back roads in small towns. That's cool. There's a lot of good scenery in those back roads in small towns. Depends on how fast I want to get somewhere is which way I'm going to travel, because sometimes especially going down to Galveston and Houston, you got to be in the fast lane because they will run you over. So asking ourselves, what am I feeling? What do I need? What do I want? And what do I value? Those are important questions to know about yourself. I've been to the casinos. I'm more like to shop at the casino, like that gaudy. I've been to WinStar and I've gone to shows at WinStar, and when I got to stay at WinStar, and I liked that little gaudy casino right before the hotel. It was that not casino, that little gaudy store. So free dead tree. I'm in the middle of all you guys. Hello, you're in Temple, Texas. See, we got Texas in the house. We do. Angela, you can have fun with Stacy, but let her know you have serious intentions. I got some protection up in here. Okay. All right. So getting to know. Thank you, Angela. She got my back. Kim's got my back. Yeah. So what am I feeling? What do I need? What do I want? What do I value? These are things that if we know this, then we're going to know if that's our soulmate, or we're going to know if that's our person, or we're going to know if that's our job. Because sometimes there's red flags at jobs too. I've got a friend who her daughter keeps going for jobs, and sometimes there's red flags with jobs, So what do I value? I've worked at jobs where my values changed at it. So most importantly, what is true for me, so that we're not second guessing ourselves. We have to know our truth, know our worth, know our value, rather than thinking somebody else is going to give it to us, because that's what I had to learn. That love that I was always seeking was inside of me. So some people don't want it, and that's okay, So it isn't about making someone a villain, and it isn't about refusing to communicate, listen, or negotiate. It's about knowing ourselves well enough that we don't have to compromise ourselves in order to remain connected to someone else. That we're not saying, I have to do this, or they won't let me. These things, I'm like, they won't let you. You have to. So it's about knowing ourselves well enough that we don't have to compromise ourselves in order to remain connected to someone else. On Wednesday, we talked about communicating what we want, need, and desire, learning to express our feelings to ourselves before we can expect to communicate them clearly to someone else. So knowing what we want and need and desire, knowing that, so that I'm not wasting anybody's time, or what they're and tonight I want us to take it another step further, because knowing what we want is important. Communicating is important, but what happens after we communicate it? When we set boundaries, when we say what we want, need, and desire, what happens when the other person doesn't respond the way we hoped? What happens when they disagree? Now, I'm not saying it's not okay to have disagreements, but are they giving you the business? Are they punishing you? Because there are people out there. That's the reason adults are afraid of other adults, is there are adults who will punish you. You are a good bodyguard. Thank you, Angela. So what happens when the other person doesn't respond? What happens when we disagree? What happens when they're disappointed? Are we going to cower down? You're model of a relationship was warped, at least you now know. Mine was warped too, but it doesn't mean that if we learn from it, I consider my older relationships, they were a catalyst for my growth. There was no victim and villain because they told me who they were. Now, if I refused to believe it and I tried to prove something to myself, and this is other people do it too, men and women do this. And I used to do this back in the day. But I had to heal from that because I still ended up with the same outcome no matter how hard I tried to manipulate and control it to prove it. It was the same outcome. I ended up abandoning, which was what I didn't want to do. But that's what happened. So what happens when they push back when we set boundaries? You know, sometimes we just tell people, okay, well, good luck, It was nice to get to know you. Sometimes it's that. It doesn't mean that it's about us. But see, here's where the healing is an important part, is because if somebody doesn't want to do what I want to do, or somebody doesn't, want to respect my boundaries, for me not to think that there's something wrong with me because they don't want to do what they want to do or respect my boundaries. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Is that what this means is that they don't want to do that, and that's okay. We all have our different preferences. So because this is really where we get to find out if we're really learning to trust ourselves. When I trust myself, I'm not going to try to make myself fit into somebody else's mold. Yes, Kim, you do. You got that Tennessee, born and raised, small town USA. Yeah, Dolly died not far from you, didn't she? Blue Lightning. Angela, I'm not a fan of men myself. Some of us are good. Yes. I believe men are getting more and more able to express themselves and communicate more because there's something flying. It's important for men to feel safe too, and a lot of times they didn't get to feel safe. They had to be the protector all the time. They had to live in this role. And I'm not saying we don't want a boy and we don't want what they call the Peter Pan thing, but it's okay for men to be able. I was saying this earlier today, that a lot of women get mad at men for being emotionally unavailable, but they were trained to be emotionally unavailable. There are good, incredible men. There are. I'm not looking for a husband, Mr. Jackson, so that's a very good thing. Kim, very close, about 20 minutes. Yeah, see, so, all right. Then we're going to find out if we really trust ourselves when we are able to honor ourselves and not bend ourselves into a pretzel to please somebody else. So tonight we're going to continue exploring trust issues, the boundary dynamics, and look at what happens when so it takes courage to set boundaries, y'all. It takes courage to set the boundaries, but you're worth it, and you're going to feel good after you do. It's scary at first. Free Dead Tree. I sure hate to leave. Thank you, Stacy, for everything you do. Your comfort is always needed. Good night, Free Dead Tree. I hope that you'll join us again. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I think you have. But subscribe, and I'll be back Sunday with a story. Night Free. Mr. Jackson gave you a compliment, and he was a narcissist. That's my point tonight. Yeah. Right? So it takes courage to set, that's right, Angela. It takes courage to set boundaries, but more than that, to setting loving boundaries. It takes self-love to learn to trust and accept that what you've been doing hasn't worked. So, either if you're like me, it only prolonged my suffering and deepened the loss of myself when I didn't listen to myself. So in our last slide, I talked about how when we honor ourselves, we honor someone else, and that isn't with demands. When we begin setting loving boundaries, that's different. It isn't familiar to you in setting them. So we're not familiar with setting them. So it may be a little scary at first. It's also unfamiliar to the person. Not only is it unfamiliar to you, but it's unfamiliar to the person who benefited them. I know, Angela, you are so right. Because there's an intention, yeah, I know what you mean. So when we begin setting loving boundaries, that's different. It's unfamiliar to you and it's unfamiliar to the person receiving your boundaries because they benefited from you not having boundaries. Thank you so much, Stuart, for recognizing that. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If y'all please hit that like button too. Thank you. All right. Thank you. And Ankita Recipe Marathi. Blue Lightning. My best friend recently told me he realizes his ex-wife was a narcissist. I always thought he was a narcissist. I know, and it's really hard because somebody asked me, I think Angela asked me last one of the lives, can we tell a narcissist that they're a narcissist or how you hurt them, and they don't care. And when you tell a narcissist they're a narcissist, they're going to tell you you're a narcissist. So you may get pushback when you set boundaries. This happens when we love someone else more than we love ourselves, and the relationship may seem one-sided, and if it seems that way, it probably is. There was a fear before healing and setting the boundaries simply because we didn't know how. And when we're learning, it will come with practice and development. We're going to practice. We start off small, and then we just keep getting more courage as it comes. You're from India? Well, thank you. Welcome for being, thank you for being here. And I'm glad. So we have to give ourselves love, patience, and grace that we've so freely given others and apply that curiosity to ourselves. Okay, Mug Live, I'll see you in a few minutes. And apply that curiosity to ourselves about what we want as our primary component. We need to know, what do we want? So we have to know what we want in order to know what we want to ask for and feel confident about asking for it. If you don't know what you want, you're not going to feel confident about asking for it. You can't just think it up. Just like when I told y'all, my therapist or coach asked me, Stacy, what do you want? And I'm like, I had to think about it. So we must think about, what do we want? When we go to that job, what do we want? I hated a job one time, and then I had to tell myself, Stacy, you're carrying your happy ass in here. So what do you want? So I had to figure out, what did I want, and go towards that. If I'm unhappy with something, what do I want? Because it's up to me to give me what I want. So we have to know what we want in order to know what we want to ask for and feel confident about asking. The first thing is not to fawn at the first turn of the lip, because you're going to get that turn of the lip or the furl of the brow. Breathe in faith and conviction of your question when you're setting that boundary, when you're asking this person, what did they mean when they said this? Why are they saying that? If you think that they're saying something that's naughty. We don't want to just accuse them of it, because maybe it wasn't. When I tell people I'm processing, I have to just be willing to ask these questions rather than go off this old tape that gives me this idea. If I want things to change, because nothing changes if it doesn't change. We've been talking about your dating life, Stacy, and we're learning a lot of things. Yes, and I hope y'all learn from my mistakes. So the first thing is not to fawn. And what we find fawning is that when somebody gives us that look, because when you set a boundary and it's benefited them, they are going to get you, they're going to and get that eyebrow and that look going, and then they're going to want you to back down because they're seeing they're losing power, they're losing control. So the first thing isn't to fawn and back down. Breathe in your faith and conviction. Just take a deep breath in of your question and don't back down. Because a lot of people will, in that fawning, will try to fix it after they see that look. That starts setting their central nervous system up. Don't back down. You say what you need to say. This is what I need. I need the truth in a relationship. I need, or what have you. And if you're not going to tell me the truth, then I just can't do a relationship with you. Okay, so the first thing, so breathe in faith and conviction of your question, request or assertion, and ask like you're pulling off. You got to, when you do this, when you set the boundary, you got to do it like you're pulling the sticker off or ripping off a Band-Aid, but do it nice, because a lot of people don't back down. Once that Band-Aid's off, once that sticker's out, it's good. I do have Instagram. And then pause. Do not fawn. It's Stacy_Renee for life. So sometimes people negate their boundary trying to fix it, after they set a boundary. And that's why this always happens, is because you back down. Don't back down. Be true to yourself. So then, okay, so you don't, some people negate their boundary by trying to fix it. You need to get comfortable with the quiet. Get comfortable with the quiet. They're going to get quiet, and then they might get loud. But we've feared both in the past. And the person you're dealing with also has fears, and probably the same fear that you have. And many of you might be afraid they're going to get loud and aggressive or give you the silent treatment, and you still need to honor yourself. Do not negate your own boundaries with fawning. People may want to see you second guess yourself, and you may be tempted to, and you may even think for a moment, this is why I didn't want to do this. But just breathe, darling. Just breathe. So, I hope that this has been helpful this evening. We're about to breathe. Just breathe. So what did you all get from this evening? How did it benefit or help you, or what have you? I'm going to take a drink of water before we breathe. You know why we breathe? We breathe for the regulation and regeneration 5 times, because it does put us in the present moment. And sometimes when you set a boundary, when you say, it hurts my feelings when you lied to me, and then if they lie to you again, then you understanding that we have choices. This could be your friends, because friends lie. I've been working with people who've had friends lie to them. Thank you so much, Stuart. I appreciate that. We're about to do some breathing. I hope you'll enjoy it. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow too, beautiful mama. My first client tomorrow isn't until 1 o'clock, so I'll probably talk to you in the morning time, okay? So, hello, Dr. James Skylark. So the regulation is so we can be present in this moment, because sometimes when, oh my gosh, there we go. I put that one out myself. How about that? Hey, McGlove, what's the question? We're about to get into breathing. You ready to breathe, darling? No, I didn't see Raven, Mama. What's the question, McGlove? So, thank you so much for Stuart for letting me know that was refreshing. So everybody else, how y'all doing? Ankita's recipe, Marithi. It's good to see you. Thank you. No, girl, I got that one myself. I got to hit the button on that one. They were being very rude. Hello, Andrew. Is Andrew? Hello, Andrew. I won't even try to say your last name and slaughter it. It's good to see you. We're about to do breathing. If you just got on here, this is going to be quite a long video, because I've been on here a couple of hours now, and I hope that it's been helpful. I hope that if you get on here and you like this content, you're very welcome, Angela. Thank you for being here and for all the questions that you ask, and I'm glad you learned a lot. Thank you. Hello, look, Mustafa. Looks Mustafa. So I thank you all so much for being here. And what we talked about this evening was boundaries, and what happens when you set boundaries and people push back on them. You're ready for the girl. You had to hit that button a lot of times. Did hitting that button give you a headache, or are you getting a headache just from? We're about to breathe. So we're going to be here for story time. I'll share a story. We'll wind the week up with story time on Sunday. So I'll be back on. Yes, let's breathe. Grinch, you going to breathe with us? You just went. Meh. So we'll be here at story time at 9 a.m. Work gave you a headache? Thank you so much for moderating tonight. I know they kept you busy. I don't know how much you got to listen to tonight, girl, but thank you and Ramon for being here. Oh no. Think it's allergies due to all the, did y'all have rain and stuff? Anyway, you did an amazing job, everyone. Y'all, if you can throw some hearts up for Kim for doing our moderation tonight. She's an amazing moderator, and I thank you so much, Kim, for moderating. I love you. So we're going to get into the breathing. So just breathe in, knowing that you are enough. Thank you, Blue Lightning Trading. So we're going to do that breathing. It's going to be 5 breaths, you know, but just pay attention to what you hear, because a lot of times we are so busy we don't even hear these beautiful natural sounds. And then feel your heartbeat. Let your heart open up. Feel your heartbeat, you know, and be present. Okay? Thank y'all so much for being here. I know you could have been somewhere else, but y'all were here with me, and so I just love you and appreciate you for it. So thank you very much, okay? Here we grow. Here we grow. What's it? Ah. Hello, Mr. G-Man. So here we grow. Let's take a deep breath in, filling up your tummy. Your shoulders will rise. Your heart will open. Feel that nice air go down through here, and then just get in your right and divine mind and hold it for 4 counts if you can. Oop! If you can't, that's okay. But just release gently and slowly through your mouth. Okay? All right, here we grow. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Breathe. Hold it. And release. Breathe. Hold it. And release. Just 2 more. Breathe in. Hold it. Release. Last one. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Y'all feel regulated and regenerated? Stay true to your groove. Yes. You're right, Ramon. You know it. It is golden milk time. It is. Angela has sleep headaches when I don't sleep many hours. Yes. Y'all are so sweet. I love y'all. Emperor's New Groove. Love that movie. I have not seen that. But Ramon's right. I'm going for the Grinch, and I are going to have golden milk. All right. All right. Thank you very much, BMM. Blue Lightning Trading. You should do AMSR. You'll make the money. Oh, okay. Richard Cessny. Okay, I don't even know what that means. Grinch is making noise. I know. He is participating right there from a distance. When I go to that refrigerator, the Grinch will come out. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes, y'all. Maybe he's going to tell y'all good night. Grinch, are you going to come out and tell everybody good night, baby? Ow. He wants his banana. He don't want it. He got me. So, he says good night. And he loves y'all. Maybe we'll wait a minute. Thank you for all those hearts. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Angela, Ramon, everybody. Night be night, and you are right. Night is night. Night be night. And so y'all have a good night. Get you some blessed and regenerated rest, just like those breaths. How's meat to be cooked and ate? For me, it's well done. I like it medium well. I like it, I like meat cooked medium well. Kim. That's right. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate you, and I love you very much, and I look forward to seeing y'all Sunday morning at 9 a.m., okay? All righty. I'll see y'all then. Thank you, each and every one of y'all who were here tonight. I've loved your participation, your comments. Good night, Angela. You are very welcome. Good night, y'all.